He dragged men and women from their homes and threw them into prison. He stood by in approval as the first Christian martyr was stoned to death. To the early followers of Jesus, the name Saul of Tarsus sparked absolute terror. Today, he is revered in the Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Church as Kidus Pawlos, St. Paul. But his history begins not with a pulpit, but with a campaign of violence. Born a Roman citizen in Tarsus, Saul held a rare dual status in the ancient world. He was a man of the empire, but he was also a strict Pharisee, educated in Jerusalem under the most prestigious Jewish teachers of his era. When the followers of Jesus began to multiply after Pentecost, Saul viewed the movement as a threat to the legal and religious traditions of his people. He saw their growth as a dangerous corruption that had to be stopped. He launched a personal mission to obliterate the early church. By hunting its leaders and scattering its members, Saul created a crisis that threatened to end the religion before it could truly begin. Saul secured official letters from the high priest, granting him the authority to expand his search. He headed toward Damascus, intending to arrest any Christians he found and bring them back to Jerusalem in chains. Near the city, a light from heaven, brighter than the noonday sun, flashed around him. The force of the encounter knocked Saul to the ground. A voice spoke directly to him. "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" When Saul asked who was speaking, the reply upended his worldview. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting." When Saul stood up, he was blind. For 3 days, the man who had arrived to hunt Christians sat in absolute darkness, refusing to eat or drink. A local disciple named Ananias, though terrified of Saul's reputation, obeyed a command to find him. When Ananias laid hands on him, something like scales fell from Saul's eyes. His sight returned, and he was immediately baptized. This period of physical vulnerability served as a break from Saul's past. Within days, the man who had traveled to Damascus to destroy the church began preaching in its synagogues that Jesus was the Son of God. Saul began using his Roman name, Paul, and focused his efforts on a new mission, taking the gospel to the Gentiles, the non-Jewish world. He traveled thousands of miles across the Mediterranean by ship and on foot, moving through Asia Minor and into Europe to establish new communities. Paul engaged with the intellectual centers of the empire. In Athens, he stood before Greek philosophers at the Areopagus to debate the nature of the divine and the resurrection. He targeted major ancient hubs like Ephesus and Corinth, building a network of anchor churches that would sustain the faith long after he moved on to the next city. Paul possessed a specific set of credentials for this work. His knowledge of Jewish prophecy allowed him to explain the faith's origins, while his Roman citizenship gave him the legal standing to navigate and travel the empire freely. Paul's most lasting impact came through his writing. In the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, 14 of the letters in the New Testament are credited to him, written to guide, correct, and encourage the churches he founded. In these texts, Paul detailed the mechanics of Christian theology, focusing on the concepts of salvation by grace and the practical application of love within a community. He often wrote these letters while in custody. Even while chained to Roman guards in cold, dark dungeons, he produced texts like the Epistle to the Philippians, which urged its readers to find joy regardless of their circumstances. His imprisonment failed to stop his influence. While the empire could restrict his physical movement, his letters circulated across borders, outliving the guards who watched him. Over decades, Paul survived shipwrecks. He endured brutal stonings and multiple severe beatings. He recorded these hardships as the necessary cost of building the early church. Toward the end of his life, he was taken to Rome. He faced his final trial under the reign of Emperor Nero, a period marked by the brutal state-sponsored execution of Christians. In his final letter to his student Timothy, Paul wrote, "I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith." Because he was a Roman citizen, tradition holds that he was spared the cross and instead died by beheading. He was executed in the heart of the empire he had spent his life traversing. Paul's transition from a strategist of religious persecution to a traveler who died for those same beliefs shows the total redirection of his life. He began as the movement's greatest threat and ended as its most influential architect.